Madam City Clerk.
This is a regular meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, July 7th. Please stand for our invocation led by Council Vice President C.J. Small and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads, dear Heavenly Father. We thank you for waking us up this morning and starting our way. We thank you for letting us see a brand new day, dear Heavenly Father. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for being so good. We thank you for being a blessing to our city, dear Heavenly Father. We thank you for even bringing us through rough times, dear Heavenly Father. We ask you, dear Heavenly Father, please bless this meeting. Please bless this council. Please bless this mayor and his administration, dear Heavenly Father. We also ask, dear Heavenly Father, please bless our President of the United States. In Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, President Manzi,
Here.
Vice President Small,
Here.
Councilmember Richardson,
Here.
Councilmember Williams,
Here.
Councilmember Daves,
Here.
Councilmember Rich, here, Councilmember Gregory. Here. Statement of rules.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We first would ask that you turn off or silence all of your electronic devices before or upon entering the council meeting. Any person desiring to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, the speaker must state clearly for the record both his or her name and address. Any person desiring to speak to the council on a non-agenda item must contact the city clerk's office on the Thursday preceding the Tuesday by 2 p.m. at which you'd like to speak. All of your commentary must be pertinent to City of Mobile business. And the person who hadn't given that proper notice will not be allowed to address the council. All speakers are granted 5 minutes. The bell will sound to indicate the end of 4 minutes, which indicates that you have 1 minute for summarizing. When the second bell sounds, that indicates that all of your time has expired. When addressing the council, there is to be no personal address to any individual council member. All of your statements and your inquiries are to be made to myself, who serves as chair, and I will recognize any council member who wishes to respond. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and or public outcry allowed. Those are the rules for this particular meeting, and we are certainly appreciative of your interest in your municipal government. Madam City Clerk.
Approval of minutes of June 30th.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Great job as always. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Communications from the mayor.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you here this morning. COVID is, I think, on everybody's mind. Mask pretty much on everybody's face, which we certainly appreciate you wearing your mask. You know, I don't think it should be unanticipated that we're seeing a spike in cases. I think that you'll continue to see the rise in cases as long as we continue as a society to try to get back to some semblance of normalcy. The statistics, there are a lot of statistics out there that a lot of people are monitoring, and I think the two that are the most important are those having to do with what is the death rate, what's happening with it, and the second is how are we doing in our hospitals and the capacity that we have to take care of people. So we monitor those, and we will continue to monitor those. The hope for is that we will continue to push through this, and that, you know, as more people get infected, that we will have fewer people dying and fewer people actually having to go to the hospital. But anyway, I appreciate the action that the council took last week, trying to help, you know, control the spread of the disease. In the next few days, I'm going to be appointing a task force for racial equity. I will review all the policies and practices in the Mobile Police Department, the human resources, finance, business, procurement, community development. And over the last few days, been having conversations with different representatives in the community that have given us input into their thought of the creation of that task force. This is something that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, and so it's actually in the next few days we'll be announcing who that will be. But they will conduct a citizen survey. They're going to focus on the economic opportunity strategies of our underrepresented communities, and they will work with community organizations to help us expand the city's involvement in My Brother's Keeper initiative. Anyway, our hope today is that as the council takes up the ordinance having to do with supplier diversity, that it will enable us to strengthen our vendor pool across the city, which is something that desperately needs to be done. It's been something we've been working on diligently ever since we hired Arshanique Kidd, who is within the administration the resident expert on what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and kind of how it needs to be done. So we're grateful for her input and what she does. So again, thank everybody for being here, and that's all my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to hear the concept of this task force. Would that concept be inclusive of representatives from the city council?
They'll be reporting, you say, is there going to be a representative of the city council on it? No, this was going to be a community task force. It was not going to have a representative of the council on it.
That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
What I'm asking is, as I hear it, it appears to be an initiative that is going to be centered out of your office, like a mayor's task force, and I'm asking that we make a collaborative and inclusive task force so that all of us can have input.
Yeah, you know, so we'll certainly, we can engage after this because I know that you're interested in the same things that we're interested in, so we'll figure out how do we, combine together to make it happen.
I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's good news that you're about to instrument this task force. When are you planning for this to be implemented? How long? Is it 6 months, a year, 90 days?
Once we actually announce the people, get people to agree to serve on it, I think it's going to be within 90 days that we're expecting them to give us a report.
So you probably looking to implement this to be kicked off in a month's time or?
August. Yes, certainly we'll be kicking it off in the month of January.
January?
We will be
July.
convening, July. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone here, before we move forward, is there anyone here that is in need of a mask? We do have an ordinance. Is there anyone here that's in need of a mask? Well, I'm asking everyone that's here that intends to stay here to abide by the ordinance. So if you're in need of a mask, I'm not trying to point anybody out. I don't want nobody to go out and say I'm singling anybody out. If you're in need of a mask, we've got 15,000 masks on order. We can help you with one. So I'm going to ask anybody that doesn't want to wear a mask to excuse themselves.
I think we need to read our ordinance personally.
Is there anyone here that doesn't want to wear a mask that's here and not wanting to avail yourself of a free mask?
I think everybody's wearing it.
Mr. Hill,
Yes, sir.
are you going to wear a mask?
Section 3.3 of the ordinance.
You have a health issue that would preclude you from wearing a mask, Mr. Hill?
Section 3.3 of the ordinance.
I'm going to ask you to excuse yourself, Mr. Hill, because if everyone else in here, including those who have health issues, can abide by the law and be courteous and respectful of other person's health, then as the presider of this meeting, I'm going to enforce that we do it, that everybody goes in that direction.
I understand that. That's what section.
I understand, Ms. Deal. I'm gonna ask, unless you would like to put on a mask, I'm gonna ask that you would excuse yourself.
So now go out of order.
Unless you would like to put on a mask, I'm gonna calmly and respectfully ask that you respect the rest of us who have one on and excuse yourself.
Respectfully asking, are we gonna go?
Mr., I don't see our public safety director. I'm trying to be as respectful as I
Yeah,
can.
Sergeant at Arms, I just think we're,
There's an exception.
I personally believe we're misinterpreting the whole thing, so it's when you cannot maintain space.
But hold it, Mr. Hill, if you would put your mask on, I have
Ignore
no,
the ordinance.
I have no issue if you would put your mask on, Mr. Hill.
I have an issue with the.
I understand, thank you, I appreciate you. And we're willing to hear all you have to say during your, I just want you to follow the norm.
I said the ordinance is being ignored.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Hill.
see the sergeant at arms is scared.
Thank you, Mr. Hill, I appreciate you.
We also need to skip rows in between people.
Madam City Clerk,
While we're at it, Mr. President, we do have a couple that are.
I'm all for it.
They're
If
too
we have
close.
persons who are too close, will you please make some space? Because we don't want anyone to get sick. There's kids,
I think you're in the right place. That other row should be skipped, is what it should be, but now it's good.
okay.
You gotta know why you're doing things. Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta know why we're doing things. Why do we have masks? Masks are used so they can stop the droplets and everything from being spread. When you can't maintain appropriate social distance. They're not for you riding down the road by yourself.
That's
They're
right.
not for you standing outside by yourself. And if you can maintain 6 feet and you're not talking and nobody around you's talking, there's no reason to be wearing a mask. You're protecting, you're making it, we're presenting an appearance that we're doing something. But if you're not talking, you're not within 6 feet of anybody who is talking, or has been there in a short period of time talking or coughing, then it's just an act. We got to make sure we do things for the right reason and call people out for the right reasons. And so I just leave it at that.
I appreciate that, Mr. Williams, and that's exactly why I made the statement. Because Mr. Hill has signed in to speak. He would be closer than 6 feet to our city clerk.
Yep.
And he's closer than 6 feet to the gentleman right here.
Yeah, but every doctor that came up the other day took their mask off right next to the assistant city clerk, and there was no problem with that.
And I will have something to say to them going forward now that we have an organized law.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm going to, let's just move forward. Madam City Clerk.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Brendan Cam Jackson.
Did we adopt the agenda? I don't
Yes, we did.
recall. I don't recall.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did not. Okay, thank you. Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Brendan Cam Jackson.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Brendan Jackson. You might know me as Cam Jackson. I'm a former high school athlete, played quarterback for Davidson High School. Graduated from the Citadel, played football there. Currently working on a master's degree, undergrad and master's degree, both in business administration. Address 751 South Dearborn Street, 36603. I understand the situation from last week. It was a long day. Half of y'all wasn't here, but I'm here again to, express myself and express the feelings that I have for myself as well as my colleagues of my age in education. The situation I want to bring up is the lack of opportunities for young, educated adults who are from Mobile. And I'm not talking about the blue-collar jobs. We have that workforce. We have Amazon. We have all sort of things for that. But I'm talking about the white-collar jobs, human administrations, you know what I mean, financial officers, stuff like that. It's things that I know I've seen people from Mobile who go to other cities and do amazing jobs. They have amazing jobs, great careers, but yet those opportunities in Mobile are unavailable. Now, I've done some more research, looked at multiple websites of companies that are under the Mobile City Commission. Some of their websites are very outdated, very outdated. And the way young people look for jobs now is through the internet, through technology, LinkedIn. I notice a lot of city council members don't have LinkedIn, so if we did want to speak to you on a professional level, you're not there for us to even speak to. Same thing, like going back to these websites, trying to find a career on these websites are impossible to find. You might have some websites that, you go down to the career section, oh, it leads you right there. And then when you apply for it, the problem with Mobile is you have to know somebody who knows somebody to even have a chance for them to look at you. So if you haven't been in Mobile for 4 years, you've been in another school, been in another state, getting an education, getting the life experiences that you should be able to come back here and work for, the opportunity would probably not be available to you because most likely the person who's in charge of hiring will just pick a name that they know. And it's sad because we have so many talented, highly educated individuals in the city of Mobile who are in other cities doing great things. Great things. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have talked to young men and women like myself who are like, hey, heard you graduating this year, what opportunities do you have? I bet they say pretty much everywhere except for Mobile, you know what I mean? Unless it's an education job, we do have engineering jobs, we do have medical field, businesses, entrepreneurship, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm pretty sure y'all have had these conversations with these individuals like us. For example, Mr. Smalls, you said that these opportunities are available for us when you got on the seat. And I mean, I hope y'all looked at my resume. I took the liberty of looking up y'all's resume as well. It's on the website for everybody to see. I mean, so use my resources. Clear example of using a resource to get more information about something. So, Quaterius Toppins, played football with him. He went to Blunt High School. Where is he at right now? In Atlanta, working with a funeral home. Amazing. He comes down here, he's the king of Mardi Gras Court King. So you telling me the Mardi Gras Court King is in Atlanta doing amazing things? Why isn't he in Mobile representing the city? He's representing Mardi Gras, the Mardi Gras Court. What opportunities are for him to be available to represent the city in that way as well? It's just one of many instances of amazing people throughout who were born and raised in Mobile, who have took their talents elsewhere. And what are we doing in Mobile? Last time I checked, Mobile is one of the top 50, least fastest growing cities in America. Yet the young people who made it out of Mobile are making the cities that they're in and making the companies that they're in a whole lot better. Yet here, people are trying to leave. And I've been gone for 7 years. I mean, I've traveled across the country, traveled to Europe, seen a lot of different things. I encourage a lot of people to travel just to, open your eyes to a lot more things that are not in Mobile. And having that experience and seeing a lot of things that Mobile lacks, I feel like now that I'm back because of COVID-19, I can do something about it. And I'll talk to other individuals like myself, other colleagues, other friends, and they all agree. I mean, I have a list of names and numbers of people that if y'all want to talk to them, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So I'm guessing that's the 5 minutes right there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
Mr. Jackson said he graduated with a master's degree at Citydale. And first of all, let me say, I don't know of no person who would move to a city looking for a job and would go to the city government to complain about jobs. If I move to Atlanta to look for a job, I'm going out to put my application in to where I want to work. I'm not going to no city hall for no job. What the city does is create the atmosphere for businesses to come here. We have done that. They are here. What Mr. Jackson didn't say is I took Mr. Jackson's application and I mailed it to the chamber. to the CEO of the Mobian Area Chamber of Commerce and ask him to circulate it among his 2,000 members. That's what I asked him to do. I took his application and mailed it to Mark Nix at Mobian Infirmary to say, can you use this talent over there? There are 2,000 businesses that's a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And we're gonna get criticized that we're not doing what we're supposed to do. 2,000 businesses at the Chamber of Commerce, and here's a man who majored in business. Honestly, first of all, I would go to the chamber and get a list of all of his members, and I would circulate my resume to every one of them. If you want to work for a business, go to the business and apply. You're at the wrong place. First of all, let me say, I think Citadel let you down. You had no business leaving Citadel before Citadel had you to create a resume in your business department. Create you a resume. They should have set before you left school, your resume should have been sent out to the top 50 businesses in the United States before you left school. You should have had a job already offered to you before you left school. The school just let you graduate it. Just let you get your transportation and go home. When you leave Tuskegee, they would have set your resume all over this nation, and you would have had a job. What they done in Citadel, first of all, it's a war college. It was organized during the Civil War, during the slavery.
Yes, sir, I understand the history of the city.
But I'm saying, Denmark Visa and Gabriel Prosser started a slave revolt. The word Citadel means to protect. They organized the Citadel so it wouldn't happen again. I'm familiar with the Citadel. The only thing I'm saying is that you can't measure what businesses are doing by looking at the city of Mobile. That's not our mission. Our mission is to go and get businesses. We have been all over the world bringing businesses in here. Just take Highway 43. You've got about 15 chemical companies up 43, including the Alabama Power Company. It's all kind of major companies just going up 43. It ain't what the city can do. It's what you can do. You got to get your resume in the end. Now, if you don't get a job for what you're applying for, I graduated from the University of South Alabama. My degree was political science and history. I went to work for the U.S. Postal Service. Worked 32 years at the U.S. Postal Service. I retired as manager of station and branch operations. I didn't get a chance to use my political science. I'm using it now. Came down here as a council member, and I was able to put all of what I was taught to work here in the city of Mobian, and it's working right now. It's a lot of people here. You got a city clerk here. She didn't start off in her field. She worked at an insurance company, worked at a school system, and she finally got into her field when she got here. And all of these people can put them and tell you the same thing. You may have majored in business, but you're going to have to go to work wherever you can get a job.
Let's go with the meeting. We're going to be here for 3 hours.
And then work your way up to what you want to be. You're not going to start off up there. You're going to start off down here and work your way up.
Yes, sir. I understand that.
Hold 1 second. Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. Your time has expired. I want to say something briefly, though. Mr. Richardson, were you finished?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson called me about 3 weeks ago, and we had about a 30-minute discussion on this same topic. And he expressed to me then his desire to come here and let us know the sentiment of persons who happen to be in his peer group. And I encouraged him to do that. I encouraged him. I let him know that he would be welcome and that we would hear what he had to say, because what he was expressing to me had merit. I offered how I could be helpful, and I still offer how I can be helpful to you, even moving forward. So I just wanted to make certain that it was clear that he called me as his representative, and I encouraged him, after hearing his desire to want to come, I encouraged him to come. And I don't think what he said is out of place. I don't think it's out of bounds. And if there are more we can do, the mayor has announced his task force. I'm hopeful that he will associate with Mr. Jackson so that we can have that particular perspective at the table. Because we do have a brain drain. We do have persons who graduated in my generation, 37 under, 40 and under, who are not staying here in Mobile. They come here like CM and E's, Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. And so I think it's a discussion we ought to have. I'm willing to engage, and I don't think Mr. Richardson is unwilling to engage. I see what he's saying, but I wanted to make certain it was clear that he's not here arbitrarily complaining, but he's here after having talked with me, and he's a citizen here, and we ought to be able to listen to him just like we listen to everybody else come down here burning 5 minutes. Because what he's saying makes a lot of sense. So however I can be helpful in working with you personally, working with someone from your peer group personally, from that faction of our city, to keep them here and keep them in District 2, I'm willing to do that. And so that's your time, Mr. Jackson, but we appreciate you coming down.
Mr. President?
Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, I would like to also state, I know Mr. Kim Jackson had mentioned my name, but just to clarify, QT Toppins, which was the king of Mardi Gras this past year, graduated from Alabama State University, left Alabama State University, and went to Governor Jones College in Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Toppins had 2 years of apprenticeship. His apprenticeship would not be completed in Georgia until August of this year. So therefore, he can't come back to Alabama, period, until he finishes his apprenticeship. And that's what Mr. Toppins. Mobile is a great city. When I graduated from Governor Jones, the same school Mr. Toppins is attending now, I was offered a job in Atlanta. I didn't want to work in Atlanta, and I could be making more, I would have made more money in Atlanta versus at the place that I was working here locally. But I knew my dreams and aspiration was to own my own business. And Mobile is pretty much more as a blue collar area, a major blue collar area. We're a port city. We're not like Atlanta, where Atlanta is more as a major white collar area. Atlanta don't have the port, as we have the port here. So it's on gives and takes on both ways and everything that, we have. Just like as in Birmingham. Birmingham more focused on more, it's like half and half. Half is 50 blue collar, half is 50 white collar. But Birmingham is not as blessed to have like a port city as we have here in Mobile. They're not blessed to have a major interstates, 65 and 10 meet together. We got air here, we got rail here, we got water here. Atlanta don't have all of those things. So, it's a give and take on both ends there. But I tell any young person, the best thing that you can do is be your own entrepreneurship. Create your own business that you can hire people that have, I have an HR degree, human resource degree. I'm not using it, but, get your own business, hire people that, HR degrees, et cetera. And the best business is to be an entrepreneur. And that's the route that I have taken, and that's why I tell many young people, be your own entrepreneur, and get the other ones. Create your Tulsa, Oklahoma here, in Mobile, your own Black Wall Street. The sky is the limit. Again, we can lay out roadways, we can pass some funding here and funding there, but again, we need people that can be able to drive the main car, and again, we assist them. But we can't just, just give it out and everything. But the best thing to do, man, to be an entrepreneurship. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Madam City Clerk.
Reggie,
Mr. President,
Mr. Mayor?
can I speak just for a second?
Sure.
Yeah. 7 years ago, Cam, about the time you left Mobile, I was campaigning to be the mayor. And there weren't but a few talking points, but one of them was we wanted to create a city whereby young people just like yourself could come back to Mobile and find the jobs, that they wanted. My oldest son's 42, and he couldn't find the job he wanted, and he hadn't come home yet. And so I understand, but I also understand that you bring a network with you. You bring an understanding of what it's like. And I think Ms. Henderson's already reached out to you about being on our task force. And so I'm proud that you'll be working with us to try to change Mobile so that we can bring our young people home and they can find the kind of jobs that they want. So I look forward to working with you.
Madam City Clerk.
Reggie Hill.
Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. Good morning, everyone. I am just completely thrown away by this chamber. Extremely disappointed as well. And as our president mentioned earlier, he didn't want to single anyone out, and I don't want to single anyone out either. But for an entire pre-council meeting, a member of the administration didn't have a mask on, and nothing was said. As well, another member of the administration came and spoke at this very same podium without a mask on, and nothing was said. And we even had a member of the council this morning express their sentiment of not wanting to support ordinances that don't produce anything. But yet we got people sitting right here in the midst of this chamber that are not abiding by the ordinance that was produced last week, and yet this is a place where we conduct city business.
Mr. Hill, if you could put your mask on, please.
Sir,
Everyone that's coming to the mic from now on is going to have this mask on.
I don't think that's compliant to the
If you
to the
could put your
ordinance. And I ask
mask
that you
on, you're right there
apologize.
less than 6 feet from both the city clerk and our director of public works. All I'm asking is that you do what I'm doing. I'm not asking you to do anything else than what I'm doing and what everyone else in here is doing. We holding your time.
I think as we move forward, that can be something that we can do, Mr. President. But if that was not in compliance
Mr.
at the
Hill,
beginning of this
Mr.
meeting,
Hill,
I don't understand
Mr.
how
Hill,
that is
hold
something
it.
that I should have to be enforced to do.
I am the presider of this
Especially if I'm
meeting.
saying that I qualify under the ordinance in section 3.3. So I don't understand how you can infringe something on me when it's listed on the exemptions. As well, when we had members
Mr.
of
Hill.
this same chamber earlier today that did not have to comply, that you looked at directly and you asked
Hill.
questions for upwards of 15 minutes.
I didn't ask anybody 15 minutes worth of questions. All I'm asking, Mr. Hill, now if you don't want to wear the mask, you want to continue, go up to that upper mic where you're not up all on our city clerk and on our public works director and across from me.
So those people who were at the mic earlier
Mr. Hill,
without a mask,
I'm not going to continue to go back and forward.
it's not going back and
It
forth. sir.
is.
We're just
but
stating the
it
facts of
won't
what happened.
continue. You
This
either
is
gonna
something that
wear
you're being
will
biased
you-
about your
no,
application
sir.
of the law. But I'll
Any-
gladly go up to the other mic and present it. Please hold my
Thank
sign.
you. And let it be known that that is going to be the standard. If I'm going to sit here and wear a mask, if my colleague's going to wear a mask, the mayor's got his mask on, then if we're going to hear you, you're going to have your mask on. Hold it, Mr. Hill. First off, you signed in, Mr. Hill, we don't need the extra commentary. Please continue with what you signed in on.
It's not on.
It's on.
We hear you.
We can hear you, Mr. Hill. Yes, sir. We
hear you,
don't
Mr.
control
Hill.
the mics, Mr. Hill. Ms. Madam City Clerk, can you assist him, please?
Mr. Clerk, you should be going up there, he doesn't have a mask on.
Well, we need to apply that equally, and I don't mean to point out the last council member that spoke, but didn't have his mask on the whole time. And all I'm saying is if we got to apply this rule sensibly and consistently. I'm not saying I disagree or whatever in this case, but nobody can pull their mask off, nobody can grab it, It's got to be over their nose and their mouth. It's got to be properly worn. It can't be pulled out to the side. All of it's a violation. If we're going to talk about one violation, it'd be all violations.
Thank you,
It's a city
Mr.
council
Hill.
meeting. It's not anybody else's. 7-member meeting. It's on now, Madam Clerk.
It's on. And we're going to ask that everyone, be it staff, council, visitor, alien, until we have rescinded the ordinance, let's abide by the ordinance. Okay, who you are, where you're from, what district, Cottage Hill, Spring Hill, down the hill. If we're going to have the mask ordinance, then let's abide by it. And Mr. Hill, that goes for you as well. I'm going to ask if you're going to continue your commentary to place your mask on.
Okay, there's no need.
Madam City Clerk?
I'm not doing my presentation. There's no need of movement.
Oh, okay, I'm fine, come on.
Why would you have told me the first time to go up there?
We're going to apply it unilaterally like Mr. Williams suggested. I totally agree with it. I agree. Just what Mr. Williams suggested. We're going to apply it across the board.
That's not what I suggested.
Mr. Hill, will you finish your commentary, please?
Will someone give me the time, please?
That full time, as far as I'm concerned, 5 minutes.
No, he's probably at
3 minutes?
No.
Let's give him the entire 5 minutes, Mr. Hill. Please start all over now that you have your mask on.
This is rather theatrical at times down here, but I'll continue with my comments. I want to commend the chairman of our Public Safety Committee for offering the idea of removing the term race from documents within the city of Mobile. I do not believe that we are going to accomplish the trueness of that idea if we only replace it with ethnicity, because we then will still be subject to the same struggles and turmoils that we have faced for many years, just like we are seeing today, just like at this very moment. I would like to ask about, or ask if the director with the neighborhood development could give a deeper explanation on the contracts that will be afforded under 14-018, but for time purposes, I will ask that he would get that with me personally. I want to also commend the Public Safety Committee Chairman for 39-020. I'm hoping that we can acknowledge the idea of peaceful protests, such as this demonstration that I've been doing since 2016 down here, as peaceful as possible, and within our communities, and I hope this is something that will be recognized. Is there a bid list for 01-481, and that's $50,000 on computer software?
Is Mr. Kearney available? Mr. Chief of Staff, do you have any remark on this particular item?
Mr. President, if I could hear either one of you, I would. Tell me what.
He said,
your
is
question?
there a bid list for item 01?
Don't worry about it, because I mean, everything is just a joke down here, and we're talking about serious business.
I agree.
Just like we're gonna spend $73,815 on some shoes, and we're not investing in the proper things that need to be done to improve the quality of life of our citizens. As well, where I saw the $55,500 on the idea for the Civic Center. I'm so glad to see something being placed into that place where we could accumulate millions of dollars, but yet we will spend upwards of $20,000 more on shoes. And we're down here laughing about the business of our city and wondering why the city is the way it is. There's so much more on here that I want to discuss, but this is just disappointing. And then to even have that remark from the administration. And we're talking about offering something about equity for this city. We're talking about putting together something on equity. When there's certain groups of us that have come down here week after week, providing the data, proving results of how we can move forward on a lot of this. So, I mean, I personally am extremely disappointed in where we're headed in our city business, and it's unfortunate. We're putting Band-Aids on the cancers of this area, and we're wondering why the things are happening the way that they're happening. It's disappointing. And the people that are here, people expected all of these leaders to be responsible stewards of these resources that we're putting in here. And this is what we're doing with them. This is what we're doing with them. I would like to ask a couple of questions as well about Resolution 01500, about that $24,000, $24,500 that's being allocated for search. Now, not too long ago, Search, along with the Alabama Historical Commission, asked leaders of the African community to come, and we were informed that the Clotilda had been found. And I was very fortunate to be the youngest person in that room. It was a milestone for that area. I would just like to know what negotiations have been made within the community regarding this project, along with that of the land that was recently changed over to the city, and what role would the citizens of that community play in the long term of this project, aside from this $24,000 that is being allocated for Search Inc. And by the way, I'm appreciative of Search Inc. being on the agenda, so I want to be clear about that. This is one of the first times that I can say the company that's being chosen, we are familiar with as a community. Many times before that has not been the case, but I would like to know exactly the role of the community members throughout this process.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
I would like to say that, first of all, the money for search is a grant. It's $24,500, not $245,000. It's $24,500. A grant money.
That's what I said.
And the purpose of the grant money.
It's a typo.
I said 24,000.
Oh, okay.
One second. One second, Mr. Richardson. Madam City Clerk, Assistant City Clerk, as Mr. Hill's time expired, you can have your seat, Mr. Hill, and then you can finish when, because your time has expired. Thank you for coming
This place
down.
is a joke. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Richardson?
Yes, that is not going to involve any land. It's going to involve the spot where the Clotilda went down at the 12-mile island. And what this grant is seeking to do is mark that spot and send their research to the U.S. Department of the Interior to try and get this spot where the Clotilda went down on the National Register of Historical Places as a National Historical Site. When that is done, we will probably see them anchor monument, something down there to denote that this is the spot. A mark, some sort of historical marker will be anchored down in the water at the site where the Clotilda went down. So this is, search is a group that's going to do the research for us in order to send the information up to the National Register to get it on their list. We're just trying to get that spot marked. We're not trying to buy no land. We're not trying to wake up the descendants. We're just trying to mark that spot 12 miles up the river. It's beyond Africa Town. This is 12 miles up the river. We're going to mark it. So currently, it's a few people know where that spot is. And then you have to get on a special tour for them to carry you up there and show you where the Clotilda went down. When this is over with, the whole world will know where it is, because there will be a marker up there so they're knowing that this is the spot. And I support this $24,000 of grant money 100% to be used for this purpose. And I have absolutely no doubt that the group that we have entrusted this to will do what we set forth to do.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Mr. Vice President?
Mr. President, I'd like to ask our Public Safety Director about the resolution what Mr. Hill had mentioned, 08-482, which I do support 100%. And those are the firefighter boots. And, you know, can you tell us, Public Safety Director, of probably how old that the current boots we have and how often do we replace it? And I also would like to know about the actual uniform itself.
You know, it's part of the firefighters' gear, protective gear, these fire boots, and so I can't tell you how long they actually last. I imagine it has to do with how often they're worn in fire-type scenes. As far as the uniforms, as far as their bunker gear, again, just protective gear that's fire-resistant.
Yeah. But I mean, just how often they're being used and everything is how long they last, correct?
I'll have to talk to and get an average life expectancy out of this gear, and so I'll try to get you that information. I'm not familiar with how long a fire boot would last.
But the purpose of these boots is for when the house or a building catch on fire, that the firefighters be able to wear these boots to go into that fire, correct?
That's correct. This is safety gear for the firefighters.
And again, I do support 100%. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up, Mr. President, if I might, since it has come up 2 weeks in a row about how expensive shoes are for the fire department, I would say that these boots are not just like a pair of shoes. There's something very special about them if they are to protect firefighters when they go into a burning building. So just to clarify.
You are correct. Again, this is safety equipment for the firefighters that go into very hot, fires. And so it's to protect the firefighters along with their bunker gear, their helmets, and their self-contained breathing apparatus.
So this would typically be considered just a normal expenditure for a city that has a viable fire department?
Yes, sir. Again, we have to be able to protect our first responders as best we can. And so, again, it's just a critical part of the safety gear. And even though the amount may sound a lot, again, these are safety boots, not just shoes that we're buying for the firefighters. And do keep in mind, there are over, 450 firefighters. And so, keeping them properly equipped, properly trained, and with the proper equipment and safety is the key issue.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
there is an option. If the city didn't want to properly protect the firefighters, we can tell them to go buy you a set of regular boots, leather boots, and march on into the fire and see how far you get. What they're doing is buying special equipment that allow them to walk into a blazing fire and not get burned. These are not regular boots, and we can't expect the firefighters to go buy these. They're working for the city of Mobile, and it's the city of Mobile's responsibility to furnish them the equipment they need to do what they have to do. I don't see why we're even debating this. You won't go to a fire department in the United States that firefighters are not wearing these shoes. Now, if this was some shoes that no other firefighters are wearing, some special Stacey Adams shoes and all for the firefighters, I can see us raising this issue. This is really what we can do every week. Citizens can come down here and look at every item where we're spending money and complain. Because we always can do something else. Whatever we done, we could do something else with the money. And they could point out something else. It's our job to see is the money being spent responsibly. I say this is well-used money so these firefighters can keep on putting out the fire, protecting the citizens in the city of Mobile.
Mr. President.
Ms. Richardson, then I'll come right to you, Mr.
Thank you, appreciate it. I know with the fire department, their equipment for going into burning buildings, there was a thought process that they needed to have duplicates of it because of the contamination and having to take time to clean it. And so I don't know if the boots fall into that category. I imagine they could become contaminated as well. So I'd like to see our fire department make that a real priority for our firefighters, because I know it causes health issues. They breathe in the chemicals and everything that they've used, and the smoke and whatnot. So it's very important that we have the right equipment for our fire department.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. It really doesn't come as a surprise to me that Mr. Hill is objecting to the purchase of safety equipment for our firefighters. Every month, we recognize the firefighter of the month and the police officer of the month. And when we do so, we rise and give that individual a standing ovation. And everybody in the audience rises and gives that individual a standing ovation, except Mr. Hill, who remains seated in his seat. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Madam City Clerk.
Velma Jackson. Deidre, can you lower the mic for her? Pull it down.
Good morning. Hold it. Miss Jackson, God also said do things decent and in order. Now, I'm not going to sit here. Hold it, Miss Jackson. I got the floor. I'm asking you to stop. I'm not going to sit here and let you proclaim a death sentence on anybody up here, because you have a difference of opinion as it relates to this face ordinance. Now, if you have something you would like to, Madam City Clerk, what did Ms. Jackson sign in on?
Policemen in Mobile and Black Lives Matter.
You got two subjects, Ms. Jackson. You signed in on policing in Mobile and Black Lives Matter. You didn't sign in on the face ordinance, so I'm going to ask that you not, again, hold a minute, ever. Hold 1 second, Ms. Jackson. I want to make sure, no man, hold it. I want to make sure we're straight. I don't want you to ever in life come down and intertwine God with proclaiming a death sentence against anybody on this council. That's not what you sign in for. I know a little something about God too. He speaks to me just like he speaks to you. So I'm going to ask you respectfully, the very next time you go down that road, we're going to ban you from coming down here speaking, because that has nothing to do with God proclaiming death on anybody up here. So you have signed in to speak on two, wait, I'm still talking. You signed in on two items, Black Lives Matter, which I agree with, and policing issues. Can we hear your commentary on those two items?
restricted.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
yeah, I would like to suggest to you and to the council, I know we're having a special call meeting this coming Thursday, and the citizens of Mobile have a right to not have, to come down to the meeting and express their concerns, but I'm not really interested in hearing nobody from Washington, D.C. or Chicago. I would like to see or ask, is it possible that we probably can just do some type of, identification for this meeting won't be out of control on this coming Thursday? For we won't have to hear from people that's from Louisiana, Texas, et cetera, coming here to maybe provoke things that should not be.
Yeah, Mr. President, I think in the clerk can correct me on this, but in the call for public hearing, we listed the conditions you had to meet in order to speak. And one of them was you had to be a resident of the city of Mobile.
That's right.
Isn't that right, didn't we?
I'm sorry, Mr. Days, I don't recall that being in there. I'd have to go back and look at it. But we did ask if they had questions that they submit
Specific
those to the city clerk web's email address.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that when we did that call to meeting, or we had talked about some rules, and one of the rules was that you had to be a citizen, you had to be a resident of the city of Mobile. Remember we discussed this and how we were going to check and that kind of thing?
I think we discussed it, but I don't think it was written, put in print.
Yeah, I remember us discussing it, and then the call had, 4 items for the agenda
And then it expanded.
to
I
try
don't
to
see
stick
why
to
we-
topic rather than,
I don't see, Mr. Taylor, would we not have the ability, being that it's our meeting, we wouldn't have the ability to add that rule that we would only want to hear from persons who are residents of the city of Mobile?
Analogy with the Public Records Act, that only Alabama citizens can make claims under the Public Records Act. And I think that's a statewide matter, and I think we're able to do that here.
I don't think there'll be an issue.
well, we just need to make sure that prior to Thursday evening, when people come, that they understand that we will only hear from people who are residents of the city of Mobile. But also, we have the agenda that lists only a certain number of items that are supposed to be addressed.
But I think that should be more publicized in the public, because I don't want nobody to come down here raising saying
I can't find it.
saying that they couldn't do it.
We did a
Yes,
press release.
so we did.
Yeah. The clerk has to call the
Yes.
call the meeting.
So we have, communications shall be restricted to the topics set forth in this resolutions. Speakers must be residents of the city of Mobile and state their name and address.
Amen.
Speakers will be restricted to 2 minutes total each. The purpose of this meeting is for the council to gather information, thus questioning of the council, mayor, or mayor staff by speakers is not allowed. Speakers shall not make statements toward individual council members, the mayor, or the mayor's staff. Speakers must submit a written request to speak to the city clerk no later than 12 p.m. on July the 9th. The city clerk can be contacted at cityofmobile.org.
So my question is, are we going to ask for some type of identification, or just going to go on their word that they live in Mobile? Because someone had mentioned last week at a meeting that someone came down here and gave a Mobile address, but they live in, in the county. So, I mean, are we going to go as far as in checking identification, or we just going to go on their word?
And the city clerk in her office can facilitate that with the sign-in sheet.
So Marion, is it possible, President, if you can ask Marion, if possible that they can do a release and state that they must bring the identification in order to sign up and speak. I think it would be more feasible that people would know they had to bring the ID and that we are serious.
That'll be fine, Mr. Small.
Marion
She can take care of it.
I have a question that might be
Police
a
jurisdiction.
problem for the public on this meeting we're having. They have specific question, they have to get it to you, but they don't have to tell you they want to speak before 5 today. Is that correct? They can sign up at the meeting? Okay.
Right.
I think what we might want to do is on our next, like, Facebook page, perhaps get that resolution so people understand the parameters of our meeting. We make reference to having to get specific questions, the hours of our meeting, but that might be a very good thing to do, to have that right within on our Facebook page.
I totally agree. Ms. Steinfeld, if you could make certain of that, and if we could also have the resolution readily available for those who will be here Thursday, so they can read it then as well, and everybody be on the same page.
Again, I
Thank
find myself at odds here.
We
Mr.
might want
President.
copies of that resolution to the people that are coming down to speak so that,
Right. That's just what I said.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you just meant in the
Yes,
press. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Williams?
it appears we're setting rules with a resolution that none of us voted on. And I would just maybe offer just a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is, maybe just the opportunity to sit back just for a second and say, what are we doing here and what's the purpose? My deal would be that people in the police jurisdiction, that live in the police jurisdiction, I don't know how to divide it in half of what they have access to, but they pay the same taxes and we probably ought to hear from them. But we ought not get into a practice of setting a resolution that says who can speak to that resolution. Our rules of the council are rules of the council. And if we listen to residents, then we ought to listen to residents all the time, anytime, never, and never, ever have anybody after that. It's just about consistency, and it's about a law or about a rule, you know, but we can always waive them, but we should not have a resolution that has not even been voted on by the council dictating the rules of the council. Now, I'm not against putting parameters on who speaks and how long. I'm not. But it just needs to be consistent. It needs to be a decision of the 7 members of this body,
We did it.
not the author of a resolution.
Mr. President,
Mr. Daves?
I believe that was all set out in the call to hearing that we voted on. Whenever it came up last week or the week before. That's what she was reading. She was reading from the call to hearing that we voted on.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
And I think she's reading the resolution that's going
Thank
to be
you.
before us next
Uh,
week.
We need to amend that resolution. I understand what we have to say. And we ought to amend it to include everything we want in there that's not in there.
Mr. Daves?
Well, Madam Clerk, but what you were reading from a few minutes ago, that was in the call to hearing that we voted on. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
I would not be in favor of amending it.
So if you want to include the ID requirement.
Oh, the ID.
Oh, no, I don't think.
We
you
said
can go that
residents. We mentioned residents. But I think the idea that someone coming from the PJ could be considered within that because of the
Yeah.
policing aspect of our listening tour.
They're residents.
That's not what it says. It says you have to live in the city of Mobile.
You said residents.
That was in the public version? In the public version,
Passed,
not
yeah.
our version.
I think we could.
No, this was the actual resolution that was on the agenda that you all asked for.
What
The
day?
conference, yes.
A couple of weeks ago
I will
now.
send my comment if I find it, but last week?
No, it was a couple
Good.
of weeks ago.
Well, I know it was on the agenda.
I'm just gonna go back to it, if you can tell me what day we voted
I'll
on it.
send it.
All right, I'll find it.
In light of that, what, it would appear to me that what's in there covers the direction we would want to go in, and I believe the city clerk and our staff will have the wherewithal to make certain, they know our intent, and they'll be able to carry it on. Madam City Clerk?
Timothy Hollis.
And what would Mr. Hollis like to speak to us about?
Oh, I'm sorry. He has signed in for several ordinances and resolutions, 39020, 46485, 6487, 01497, 21504, and 6505.
Good morning, Mr. Hunt.
Good morning, Mr. President, and in light of all of these ordinances that I tend to speak to, resolutions and CIP things, I would ask kindly that you would instruct the council to let my 5 minutes be my 5 minutes. Take a pen out and take notes if they have questions. They can ask after my 5 minutes is up because they have infinite amounts of time. And I watch y'all cut people off a lot.
You have a full 5 minutes, Mr. Hollis.
All right. To 39-020, amending the city's general noise ordinance, adding protest demonstrations and rallies. I'm here to say that I'm in full support of that, and I'm sure that my comrades throughout the city are as well. I do believe that a disapproval would appear as an infringement on Amendment 1 rights. Resolutions held over, 46-485, changing Ladd-Peebles Stadium to Ladd-Peebles Sports and Entertainment Complex. My only question is, was this a unilateral decision? Did the community have a say and input on what they wanted to see for Ladd Stadium, since that is the taxpayers' building? That's a question I have. 60-487, request mayor give city employees to get hazard pay. I'm in full agreement of our city employees getting hazard pay. I am employed at Amazon. I receive hazard pay, and I don't come in close contact with anyone from the public. So I think that we should properly amend that to support all city employees. 01-497, authorize agreement with the University of South Alabama for O'Shell Road lighting project. I'm a little ignorant to what the agreement is, so I would like a little clarity on that. Resolutions being introduced. 21-504, authorized contract at Ladd-Peebles Stadium for structural repairs, Phase 2. My question is, what is Phase 2? What is exactly being repaired? And are there any other plans for future updates to the stadium? 60-505, which is my last one. They approved the recommendation to sell a vacant landlocked parcel off of O'Connor Street. My question is, what property is this? What's the geographical location? And could someone explain to the citizens that have no knowledge, what is a landlocked parcel? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Were we going to answer?
Colonel DeLapp.
Were we going to answer these? Is that what you wanted?
Briefly, if you don't mind. Yes, sir. And if there are more elongated answers, if we could provide them to him outside.
Reference Ladd-Peebles Stadium, structural repairs, Phase 2, $1 million. That is Phase 2. There's probably $3 to $4 million worth of structural repairs that need to be made. These are safety, life, health, safety repairs to structural members of the stadium itself, so that it stays safe for anyone, getting inside the stadium. Does that answer that one? Okay. I think you had a question about the agreement with University of South Alabama for the lighting. That's the city working with the University of South Alabama on a lighting project along Old Shell Road. In total, the city council will contribute $50,000 total. South Alabama doing the rest of the work, so that they have to a combined project in which they'll do the lighting project, operate and maintain the lighting. So it's our contribution to that piece. Prevents the city from having to do the whole project on its own and then maintain it in the future. And I think there was one more. Oh, what a landlocked parcel means effectively. I think the question was landlocked. What does that mean? There's parcels all around it, so it's stuck in the middle of a bunch of other parcels that doesn't have access out.
Thank you, Mr. Zalat. Madam City Clerk. Now, Mr. Hollis, we're not gonna be able to answer every question. Not within the time frame that we have here. But if you, I tell you what we will do, if you will, I don't have an issue, and no one's trying to hide, Mr. Hollis. If you would give us a listing of those concerns, we'll make certain that you get the proper responses. Madam City Clerk?
Ordinance is held over. 02015. Ordinance eliminating and replacing the word race on City of Mobile official forms and documents.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Richardson, do you have the one to substitute or amend?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, did I give you a copy
Yes.
of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, on this one, we need a motion to adopt the original.
We've had that, and we got a second, and now that we to amend now. So, are you motion to amend?
Existing ordinance,
Oh,
all we need to do is approve the original ordinance, then a motion to amend, and then a vote on the amendment.
Okay. So I'll offer the original motion, so you need the motion to amend. And they got the copy of the amendment.
Now, you need to say something else too. If by chance you agree to the original adoption and the amendment fails, then you take out that critical language, and it's not in the original that you've approved. So you need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, we got it. We got it.
So are you gonna make the motion to substitute for your
Yeah, substitute the amended motion for the original motion.
Second.
It's been motioned and second relative to the substitute. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Before you get to the substitution, you have to vote on the original ordinance, because it's a new ordinance.
No, you have to come, the last thing you do is come back to the original motion as amended. It's the last thing we'll have to do.
Vote on the original.
Yeah.
Then somebody moves to amend.
No, we won't be voting on the original if we're gonna substitute.
Yeah, you got it.
We got it, we got it.
They've offered an amendment.
Mr. Taylor, I think I appreciate you though. We got a motion and a second on a substitution. We're gonna hear any discussion on that substitution. And then we will go back to the original
Yes.
as substitute. That's our common custom. And so we've had the motion, we've had this second, now we've got discussion, and Ms. Rich has asked for the floor.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. I have a question of the administration. If I understand the will of the council, they're talking about doing this and moving forward. So can the administration give me a sense of how many forms will be changed in the future or even in the near future?
So it depends on whether or not you're asking about the original version or the substitution that you're all talking about. And I'll answer both. If you're talking about the original version, it would maybe change some things. If we're talking about the substitution, the language that you all put in, I'm not aware of any document that would change. That's a city document.
Amen. We're talking about substitution.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote on the substitution. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
So we have 5 in favor.
Hold on.
We've had, I don't know how long that thing's been on track.
You wasn't here.
Long enough that it was taken somewhere. We got email, somebody did on the computer. I'm just simply not gonna vote on it.
Chris had it in his agenda.
He's not gonna vote on it,
Here,
Mr.
John, here's the, you want to see it?
We shouldn't be handing around documents.
Now we will go back to the item as amended. We've got 5-2, and the record reflects that. Any discussion on that item? Absent any, Ms.
Well,
Rich?
Thank you. I mean, we talked about it at pre-conference at length, and my my stress is that we really have, I don't want to call it an empty ordinance, but I don't see where it is productive and it has any real teeth to do anything to make change. If change is to happen, it's got to happen from above, because the information is needed for us to get the grant, and it's all been explained. That's why it's there, and it was put in probably starting in 1964 in order to keep up, to make sure that there were not people who were put in a place that wasn't the same as everybody else, and it helped to even the playing field. And it's still information that the federal government, state government, other charity agencies want to make sure our city is participating in, and making sure that we're documenting that information. So it's really something that has to come from above to be changed. And I understand the idea of saying that you want to put down your ethnicity as opposed to your race, but this is information that we have to dig in and get to make sure that people are treated fair, and sometimes they're treated so that they don't miss out. They get something additional. And so I just think that it's language here that fulfills a want and a desire that really isn't something that is a legislative act at this point. So my abstention is there, and read what you wish, but I really thought long and hard about this, because I thought when we got forms, we could see where we could change it, because that was the whole idea. And every department told us, no, I need to compile that information. I must have it, or we will miss out. And that means people miss out, and we're about people. Thanks.
All of what Mr. Wood said.
What was the question again, Mr. Reed?
Are they disagreeing with the statement that Ms. Rich just made? I mean, we're at this, it's open for discussion now, so I'd like to hear.
So as to the substitution, we're neutral on that one. I mean, we're not disagreeing or pushing back as to the substitution.
So the administration supports the substitution.
Oh yeah, we're fine with it. Yeah, there's no reason to go one way or another. So what we're saying is, yeah, if that is the will of the council, then there's no opposition here.
I asked that earlier during the pre-conference meeting, because I know Mr. Arledge worked with the administration on coming up with the language, and at pre-conference they said they had no problem with it, so, you know.
That's correct. There's no opposition here.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstained.
Madam City Clerk?
We need to go back to the original as amended.
Pardon me?
The original as amended.
That's what we
That's
just
what we
did.
just
That's what you
voted on.
did. That's
That's
what you
what we
did.
just voted on.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's okay. We're gonna make it through. Yes, ma'am.
Ordinance 14018, ordinance to amend chapter 14-10 of the city code to provide for socially and economically disadvantaged business, contractor, and individual participation.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And passes.
39020, ordinance to amend city's general noise ordinance to add peaceful protest demonstrations and rallies as an exception.
So move.
Second?
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Well, no, Mr. President, this one too needs to be amended in section 1 to replace section 1. We use section 1 in ordinance 3996. And what we're dealing with in section 1 today is dealing with 25 feet from the source. and we're substituting it with what's in 3996, which is the residential ordinance that says it's measured in decibels, 85 at night, 85 in the daytime, and 50 decibels at night, instead of 25 feet.
So are you making that in the form of a motion
Yes.
relative to the substitute? Any
Yeah.
discussion? I mean, is there a second? Is there a second to Mr. Richardson's motion?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Mr. Davis?
I'm
discussion.
confused as to what the amendment was from what's on the agenda originally.
What's on the agenda originally is that it shall be unlawful for any person to play, use, or operate, or permit to be played, use, or operate any radio, tape player, cassette player, compact disc player, on any public streets, road, buildings, sidewalks, or park in such a manner that the sound generated is plainly audible at a distance of 25 feet from the source of the sound. That's what was in the original. It's amended to say it shall be unlawful for any person to play, use, or operate, or permitted to be played, use, or operate any radio, tape player, cassette player, compact disc player, or other machine or device for producing sound in any public, on any public property, including any public street, road, sidewalk, park, or any such manner that the sound generated exceeds at the private property line bordering or near in which the sound is being generated 85 decibels during the hours of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., 50 decibels during the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
I need to talk.
Which is the same as we use in residence, day and night.
Any further questions, Mr. Davis?
No, sir.
Ms. Rich?
Okay, so let me make this clear. I tried to explain it at pre-conference. We put in a distance that it's heard from the person who registers the complaint. This takes that out, and would it take it out in just the downtown, or are we talking about citywide? Because we're really going to create, without having how far that sound is traveling and who's disturbed by it, this is half-baked the way it's written right now. It really gives very little guidance. So, and it started out saying that it was going to be for protests, and peaceful protests, rather. But again, this is something that's written for the entire city on the noise ordinance, and we're not giving a lot of guidance on where that sound is going and who's being disturbed by it. So someone could be 10 feet from it happening if it's a change of private property or property line and complain. And then if the decibel reader comes out, it has to be shut down, when that was not the intent. The intent was to have noise kind of contained and to spread out so far, but you have to have a distance in mind.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
I believe Madam
Gregory?
of District 7, Gina Gregory, I think she made it clear at our 10 o'clock meeting that if you're downtown and you want to make noise above 85 decibels in the day or 50 decibels at night, you need to get a permit. Other than that, it doesn't matter where you are. If I'm complaining in Cathedral Square and the music is up at some other place, they're gonna measure from where the complaint is. And if it's over 85 decibels at night, it's too loud. Then they're gonna go up there and say, cut it down. That's what the law is now. You go to the source of the complaint, and if it's above the allowable volume, then you can either cut it down or get a ticket. It's up to you. Nobody is putting a tape down to let me see how many feet you are. Nobody doing that anymore. We're not doing that. We're going to use a decibel meter to see how loud you are.
It's always been
And
there.
I don't see how this can harm anybody. It's consistent all over the city. What we have now is that the police coming out saying, I can hear you. And I'm no more than from where I am to our president, 25 feet. This, I shouldn't be able to hear you. Well, just normal talking, I can hear a person 25 feet. So that's just a way to go and irritate people, saying I can hear you. I shouldn't be able to hear you for more than 25 feet. Nobody measuring anymore. If you're making noise at night over 50 decibels, you are too loud. And if you're over 85 in the daytime, you are too loud. In other words, instead of the police coming out there with a ruler, they're going to have a decibel meter. And it will read how loud a person is, the equipment that they're using, how loud it's generating noise.
Can I ask a question?
I want to get a chance.
No.
I'll follow Ms. Rich.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying that the police come out and go on the site where the noise is coming from, regardless of who made the complaint, where the complaint came from, and
No.
if it registers above, they can shut it down?
No, that's not right.
And I would like the public safety director to give us some guidance on this, if that's okay.
I don't have any objection.
But what you're saying is not correct.
Part of what I was going to ask.
And again, I'm just now hearing this, a lot of the complaints that we receive actually are not decibel complaints. It has to do more with bass, which is not picked up by a decibel meter. What I'd like to do is is this pertaining to the downtown? Are we talking about commercial? Are we talking about residential?
Outside of residential.
Pardon me?
This is outside of residential. We already have a noise ordinance for residential saying 75, 85 during the day and 50 at night in residential. That's what the law is.
Make them the same.
Well, this law is, we're extending this beyond residential.
What
But
I
if
would-
you want to go farther than this, you can get a permit.
What I'd like to do is have y'all hold that and let me take some actual ambient noise decibel readings from the downtown area to make sure that it is something that can actually be done. The other thing would be the enforcement mechanism, and it needs to be checked to see if it's allowable in the schedule of fines under the UNTCC, or is this a custodial issue? And so we'll need to check on that. But I guess what I need is some time to find out what the ambient noise levels are in the downtown area, and then make those recommendations.
Chief, I believe you would agree with me, that we would like for the residential community to be the quietest community in the city. This is the residential standards. Why would you want the business to be less quiet than residential? That's where that's where they create business, that's where noise is generated. In businesses, they do generate noise. That's why we zone them. So it'll get them away from residential.
Yeah, I was going to make them the
Let
same.
me ask Mr. Public Safety Director. I hear all that Mr. Richardson is saying, and this, a lot of this is emanating from the community that I happen to represent. The question I have for you is, how long would it take you? Because I also hear what you're saying about doing studies and being able to make give us some feedback relative to the ambient noises. How quickly could you be able to do that?
We could have it for you next meeting. I can just get them to take some decibel readings, and what I'm concerned about is the impact on the downtown area especially, which goes well beyond 10 o'clock.
Well, let's hold this over 1 week to allow the public safety director an opportunity to conduct those needed studies, and we take it back up next week, Mr. Richardson.
We have a motion.
I don't mind doing that, but my comment would be, for us to expect downtown to be quieter than a residential neighborhood is unbelievable. That we want a downtown Mobian be quieter than what it is in a residential neighborhood where people have to go to sleep so they can get up and go to work tomorrow. We want to make sure downtown is quieter than that. I just don't see what are we studying, because we're using the same standards for the residents. So the concern can be that they will be making too much noise. If that's the case, we need to change the noise ordinance for the residential neighborhood.
He's saying that, actually.
Well, he's
But
asked for
I mean,
just a week.
if we want to go another week,
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
would it be best to hold it over for 2 weeks and have a committee meeting about this particular subject, where we all can have a great understanding exactly what we vote on and understand everything into details? And I also think that Mrs. Rich still has some questions that was out there, and I think within 2 weeks' time, we can have Ms. Rich question, hear from Director Barber, and really put everything together before we know exactly what is what before we vote.
I don't have an objection with that either, Mr. Vice President. Who is our public safety chair?
Mr. Richardson.
Well, it'll go to your committee, Mr. Richardson. You can get us a date and a time. Let's talk it all over and bring it back on the agenda. Thank you.
We're gonna have to do something.
Well, make a motion.
We got a motion
Gotta
to
rescind the motion.
adopt the amended version before us.
Or move to lay over.
Right.
And move later over
Well,
for
we
2
gotta
weeks.
deal with the motion.
Well,
We gotta
I
deal
was
with
saying
the
that.
motions we got in front of us.
The parliamentary procedure is just to delay the vote.
we've already,
Postpone the vote for 2 weeks.
Right. Did you make that
And
motion?
it must be
Ms.
heard
Lane?
without
Can
discussion.
retract your motion to,
he has already moved that we adopt the amended version.
That's fine.
And
So
you was
moved
back to,
this, so you're gonna retract it?
no.
Just
When
postpone.
when the committee
Postpone the
meet,
vote.
we're gonna be meeting on the amended version. We're gonna create the amended version, and what's original is out. We're gonna go with the amended version. It's whether or not we want to vote yes or no on
Vote
that.
on the
Yeah,
amended version.
that's fine.
And then we
Right.
can move to lay over the,
Well, then make the appropriate motion, Mr. Davis.
it's already been, we got a vote.
Go ahead,
Is that
Dan.
motion, has it been second? We've had discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move to lay over for 2 weeks.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Vice
I
President?
also would like to ask the Director Barber if anything else that we probably need to look at and change within the noise ordinance to bring that also to the committee meeting, or we can just really just look at this in details. 'Cause I know a couple years ago, we had some discussion about the bass and the boom box and anything like that. So anything probably had came up between then and now, just if you can just bring it up to our committee meeting, before we can all just look at it at the same time.
Yeah, let me get it reviewed, and let's see what kind of complaints we receive in different areas of the city and how we can address them. But I do remember us having a conversation about the bass not being picked up by decibel. And so it was my opinion that if it can be heard inside of your house after 10 o'clock at night, that it was too loud, and you didn't need a decibel. You know, if you made the complaint, the officer can confirm that it could be heard inside of a residence with the doors closed, that it was just too loud. And so we would like a chance to take a run on this and see what kind of complaints we receive and where the holes in the ordinance are, and also the enforcement aspect of it. And I think we're going to check and make sure that we can just write the UNTCC rather than custodial arrest.
Thank you.
We had the motion, the second, we've had discussion. All in favor?
to lay over?
Yeah.
Is that
Lay
what-
over,
Yeah.
yes. Opposed? The item is laid over for 2 weeks.
Ordinance 84021, approve issuance of general obligation refunding warrant, Series 2020.
So moved. Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Are there any objections to the CIP resolutions held over?
None I know of.
21479, authorized contract with McElhaney Construction Company for street reconstruction for Little Flower Avenue. 13480, authorized change order 1 with Youngblood Barrett Construction and Engineering for Dog River Park improvements.
So moved. Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Are there any objections to resolutions held over?
I don't hear any. Let's take them all, please.
Resolutions held over 01481, authorized agreement with PC Specialists doing business as Technology Integration Group for computer network security architecture and configuration. 08482, approved purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for 185 pairs of firefighter boots. 21483, authorized contract with Tyndall Construction for Mobile Civic Center Theater plaster repairs. 21484, authorized contract with Watermark Design for Fire Training Center Administrative Classroom Building Design. 46485, change the name of Lad People Stadium to Lad People Sports and Entertainment Complex. 6486, approved recommendation to sell East I-65 Service Road North property. 6487, request mayor to consider the possibility of providing supplemental bonuses or hazard pay to frontline city employees engaging in direct contact with public during COVID-19 pandemic.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, we, on 46-485, we see that we are looking to change Lad People Stadium to Lad People Sports and Entertainment Complex, and we have a representative from Lad Stadium in the audience, and if he can come down and just tell us what great things this will do by changing the name to the entertainment complex, and what it would do for Lad People Stadium for it can be public known.
Absolutely no problem.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Joe Michigan, 9,000 Pine Run, 36527. The reason we want to change the name of Lad People Stadium is to reflect a new beginning for the stadium, to include not only sporting events, but concerts, revivals, other activities that are more in line with what we need to do at the stadium. So that's the reason. Hope you guys will approve it so we can move forward.
Mr. President?
Mr. Vice President?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Michigan, for coming down on this, on today. But you also stated to me back, several months ago when this first came about that, changing this name from just Lad People, Stadium to Sports and Entertainment Complex, that the entertainment complex would draw people that's in the entertainment business to come to Lad People Stadium, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so, what's your anticipation of, how quick this would go out, that people would start biting? Because I know y'all been wanting to do this for a while. So, is things already lined up for music concerts to come in? And I know that you all were talking about doing a stage and sound equipment. Could you elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Sure. We actually have a concert tentatively scheduled pending the pandemic for September the 12th. Previously we had it was called the Spring Festival and the Funk Fest, put on by Mel Showers Jr. He's back again at the stadium for tentatively, like I said, September the 12th. We have some other concerts, a Battle of the Bands we're working on, but you know, with what's going on now, we don't really know. I will say, though, that, you know, we have one of the largest facilities in Mobile. We're able to social distance and still get, you know, more people in the stadium than any other facility in Mobile. So that's another reason.
All right, thank you.
If I could comment.
Ms. Rich?
I wanted to thank you, the management, and the board for being the host to all the graduations. That really made a big difference for everybody. And it was really great that you all stepped up and worked with the school board to make that a reality. It made such a big difference under the conditions that we're functioning under today.
Thank you. I have my graduation mask on. I'm not in the class of 2020, by the way.
Thank you
Any
for
other questions?
making that happen.
Thank y'all.
Consent resolutions being introduced,
We're gonna
03.
vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Consent resolutions being introduced, 03489 through 6496.
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for consent resolution 03-489 through 60-496.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
03489, 490, and 491 are reappointing and appointing Lavanis Fisher, Sabrina Mass, and Brian Feuermayer to the Human Relations Commission, reappointing Barbara Drummond to the Water and Sewer Board of Commissioners, appointing Damian Marks to the Police Citizens Community Relations Advisory Council. 21492, authorized contract with John G. Walton Construction to reconstruct infrastructure and complete a roundabout at the intersection of Broad Street and Canal Street. $2,094,407.17. 31493, authorized grant application to the Restore Act for implementation of Mobile area stormwater mapping and resiliency planning, no local match. 6494, 495, and 496 are approving a water special bonus to the March, April, and May officers of the month as part of the mayor's incentive program.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
CIP resolutions being introduced, 01497 through 21499.
Motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration for CIP resolution 0-497 and 21-499. 21-498 will lay off for 1 week by council rules.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
01497, authorized agreement with the University of South Alabama for O'Shea Road lighting project. And 21499, authorized contract with Coast Pro Wash Corp for Hope Community Center exterior tile surface restoration, $29,900.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
Resolutions being introduced for the first time, 01500, 6505.
These resolutions will be laid over 1 week by council rules.
Call for public hearings, 41506, call for public hearing to rezone property at 2359 Dolphin Island Parkway, area bounded by Dolphin Island Parkway, Rosedale Road, and Rifles Road from R1 to B2, District 3, scheduled August the 4th. 41507, call for public hearing to rezone property at 3154 Cottage Hill Road, north side of Cottage Hill Road, 100 feet east of Wyoming Drive West, from B1 to B2, District 5, scheduled August 4th.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is called.
Announcements.
Mr. Davis?
No announcements, Mr. President.
Mr. Williams?
No, thank you.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I would just like to remind the citizens of District 3 and really all the citizens throughout the city of Mobile, phone has been ringing lately, but anytime you have an overgrown grass in your neighborhood, right next door to you, please dial 311. Believe it or not, the council has still had to go through the administration also to report overgrown grass and blighted properties. But if 311 do not work from your cell phone, your house phone, dial 208-5311. Again, 311 is the key. I can turn it into the administration, but again, it's much faster if you call 311 and get you a SRO number, which stands for Service Request Order Number. That's your tracking number to keep up with your city issue that you have. Again, dial 311 or 208-5311 and get a SRO number, which stands for Service Request Order Number. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Ms. Brady?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things. I've announced recently that drainage work has been ongoing in the Princeton Woods neighborhood. It's just about done. There may be a few tweaks that have to be completed before it's completely finished. The weather hasn't helped us, but anyway, a great project in Princeton Woods that has been long on our radar for many, many years, so I'm happy to see this being done. Also, as the council knows, resurfacing is coming to the city of Mobile. In District 7, we will have nearly $1 million worth of resurfacing done through our capital improvement program. But before the asphalt crews come into our district, we have a lot of concrete work and utilities work that has to be completed. So even though you will see asphalt crews in other parts of the city, don't get frustrated because we have some other work to do prior to the asphalt before we can actually resurface your street. The last thing you want to have happen is to have a brand new street and then have a utility company come in and dig it up, or have us come in to do some concrete work, which then will mess up your nice, smoothly resurfaced street. So at any rate, resurfacing is coming, and I know everyone is looking forward to that. It's a huge project this year. Many thanks to Nick Amberger and the entire engineering staff for working with us to make it happen.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you. On July 21st, the Public Services Committee will be meeting to receive updates from our local utility companies. I hope they've been contacted. I understand they have been, and look forward to their attendance. The committee does, to learn about their activities in the city, and for Alabama Power, the placement of poles and the reduction of poles. The other meeting is on the 28th, and that's the UDC Ad-Hoc Committee meeting to discuss the proposed new planning codes. This is early in the stage. It hasn't come to the Planning Commission, but this committee will meet and listen to the staff and get some understanding of what those new planning codes will involve, and we'll start the ball rolling with discussions. Both of these meetings will take place here in the auditorium on the first floor of Government Plaza, and we'll follow all of those guidance of how many people can be here and our social distancing and addressing the committee. It's both committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rich.
And
Ms.
the
Rich?
meetings are at, I want to say 2 o'clock. Each one meeting starts at 2.
Ms. Richards?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I have said it before, and I said again that this is probably one of the boldest councils in America. Again, today, we tackle an issue that this whole nation been running from, been dodging and ducking, unable to face it, the issue dealing with race. And this council made a bold move today in passing this ordinance. And I just want to appreciate this council and the administration for not coming up registering opposition to this ordinance. I just appreciate them having worked with our attorney to come up with the right language that everybody could live with and move forward in the future with. And this council was bold enough to go ahead on and pass this ordinance as amended. I certainly can see, Ms. Rich, Ms. Richards' opposition, not necessarily opposition, you know, not voting. No. Okay then, I heard that. I guess somebody was trying to shut me down from another place. You might have to try again, not this time. I can see that, but I want all of you all to see my vantage point. If you have not walked in my shoes, you can't even fathom what this really means to citizens in the African American community. You won't have no idea. I'll give you a sample. The Dred Scott decision of 1857, where the decision was rendered by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Roger B. Taney, not just a member of the court, but the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Dred Scott had moved with his slave master to Illinois. Slave master died, and Dred Scott moved back to Missouri with the slave master's wife. And he tried to assert himself as a free man in Missouri, and he was slam dunked back to slavery. He went to court to say, I was free in Illinois, I should be free in Missouri. And the Chief Justice had this to say, that the Negroes, for more than a century, has been a being of an inferior order, altogether unfit to associate with the white race either in social or political relations, and so far unfit that he must be kept in slavery for his own good. What he was saying is that these Negroes are so inferior that even if we set them free, they could not fend for themselves. That's how ignorant they are. This law is still on the books because in 1865, blacks were set free from slavery, and no one came back to even visit this. And so we got stuck in this Negro, this black race of inferior people, and I'm here to tell you there's not but one race. That's the human race, the race that God created when he said, let us make man. He wasn't talking about no two races, no three races, one, mankind. That was man set that up, trying to identify people of African origin as inferior to other human beings. And what this ordinance said today, one more being, we are all the same. No more black race, no more white race, we are all the same. And for those who were trying to argue that it's a benefit if they if Fred have to put down that his race is black, it is a benefit. It has never benefited me. What you mean benefited me? When I got ready to go to the high school, Connecticut County had 4 of them. I couldn't attend any of them. They built a training school for me to go to. When I came to Mobian, Alabama, I had to put my man in the front of the bus and run around to the back and hope that bus didn't pull off. How did it help me? When I moved in Chattagay, they had a covenant saying that a black person can never live in Chattagay. And even in the neighborhood I'm in now, they had the same covenant. Had to fight my way through that. How did it help me and for you to put me down as black? I can't think of not one instance where I have benefited from that. But we are moving today. We have made, talking about one step for mankind. We have made a giant leap today in the city of Mobian. A giant leap today to say that we are all the same. That ain't no black race, there ain't no white race. Some people probably disturbed about that, saying, I want to be superior over Fred. And Fred say, Superior ought to be in your function, not your color. Can't no color make nobody, they got dogs my color and yours too. Cows your color, they're not inferior, they're not superior. It haven't helped the cows. But anyway, I just like to, I'm closing out by saying this was a bold move to move race, take race off the table, let all of us be one in the city of Mobile, and we are hopeful that this would catch on in the nation and that this would permeate throughout the United States of America. One nation. They said it right from the beginning. One nation, under God, with liberty and justice, indivisible. I mean, you can't divide us. We are divided too. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we even took the money, e pluribus unum, from many, one. We're saying in Mobile over 200,000 people, yet we are one. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any further announcements? Do I hear a motion? Properly motion in second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is